Morning, everyone. So today we are going to start about the objectives of teaching English. And in English, teaching objectives are very important before starting the class. So a teacher just prepare many objectives and many points before starting their teaching. Before starting their teaching, they are he or she is like he or she is very must prepare their objectives. They are teaching some teaching methods, so they can so they can conduct the method properly. This is the very important part. First of all, content like language objective. Here we are talking about the language objectives here. So first of all, example of a content objective you are currently teaching. First of all, currently teaching objectives are very important. Currently, what you are preparing, what you are giving and delivering. So example of a content objective you are currently teaching. What are language objectives? How do you use them in your class? Why are they important? These are very important. Why are they important? Why it is so important for the class, for student? How do you use them in your class? How do you use them in your class? And what are language objective and currently teaching method? So first of all, language objectives are often problematic for content teachers because it may be difficult to identify language objective. May be difficult. Content teachers do not have limit to teach language. Teaching language is the ELT teacher's job, and content teachers may not know enough about the students' language proficiency to determine appropriate language objectives. So, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. As we know that this is the sequence: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. This is the sequence of language. So, first of all, this sequence is very important. So, reading text, vocabulary list, notes from overhead, writing vocabulary list and notes, answers to comprehension questions, logs and predictions, sharing writing and speaking. Reading. Reading means text, your vocabulary part, text part, novel, and themes, and different notes from overhead you are reading, and writing vocabulary, writing vocabulary list and notes, answers to comprehension questions, logs, predictions, sharing writings, speaking. In speaking, answering questions, discussion, and with a partner or group members, predicting, and this will happen in a safe, low risk environment, and listening to the teacher, to student, to tapes, and when playing a video, turn the subtitles on. This is the very important. Just turn the subtitles on. So, functions of language. The English language is vast and complicated. This is not actually easy, this is vast and complicated. What functions of language should content teachers focus on the ELT students? So, basic foundation of language and the subject verb agreement, and this is very important subject verb agreement, the progar, and so many things we can see that use the obvious, possessive, and third person singular, and tense, present, past, future, basic verbs to be, to have, to like, to see. I have, you have, he has, she has, we have, they have, I, you, we, they had, I will have. So we have to focus on the first person, second person, and third. This is very important. First, your first person, your second person, and your third person. Then after in vocabulary building, basic language, basic language, technical language, word wall and word bank and punctuation, retelling, explaining. So basic functions of language for language very important, and that it sounds and their pronunciation, complete sentences, hold students accountable for basic sentence and basic sentences, word order. This is very important. If we are taking class of language and teaching methods in English in language, so we have to focus on the letter sounds, pronunciation, and complete sentences. Hold students accountable for basic sentences structure, basic sentences, word power, word order. And then after, where to begin when thinking about language objectives and determine, key vocabulary, concept, words and other words, and consider language functions and define, desire, describe, and compare, explain, and summarize it. Then, after where to begin when thinking about language objectives, so clear expectations, decide on language skills, and read for main idea, listen and give an option and opinion. Identify grammar or language structures, verb tenses, sentence structure, and punctuation, question formation. Then, after where to begin when thinking about language objectives and consider language and tasks, explore language learning strategies and prediction. Then, after writing language objective, this is very important writing language objective. So, first of all, define it and describe and identify, label, name, spell, compare. Good afternoon, everyone. So today we are going to start about the figure of speech and some teaching methods in English language. So we can say that in figures of speech we will discuss about some similes. So similes we can say simile is a comparison. First of all, simile is a comparison made between two different things having one common quality using the word so like as. So suppose the example of simile is he is as and every simile is a comparison, but every comparison is not a simile. Every simile is a comparison, but every comparison is not a simile. So he fought like a lion. My love is like a ragged rose, and she walks like cat. And in metaphor, direct comparison. In metaphor, we have direct comparison. So metaphor is an implied comparison between two different things. It is a direct. It is a direct implied comparison between two different things. It is a direct comparison without using the word to, like and as. He was a is a tale, told by an idiot, and his words were narrative. In personification, in personification, inanimate object or ideas are shown to have a human quality. For if dreams die, life is broken. For if dreams die, life is a broken, like bird. So this is, most, difficult exam. It's an example of, next example we have, when as a child I loved and wept, and wept. When as a child I loved and wept. And action speaks louder than words. The on the ground danced in the wind. A mother is a, like, servant, but a bad master. Mother is a good servant, but a bad master. Money, we can say the money. Money is a good servant, but a bad master. Money. So here we can see the example of money, and in alliteration, the repetition of the same sound at the beginning of the words. Consonant sound. Alliteration means repetition the beginning of the words. Consonant alteration. Big and 40 food found, 50 flowers, laughing lines, laugh like, laughing lines, laugh like jumping, and my love is like a red rose, one wise, and in assonance, like the repetition of single vowel sounds and man, cell, wedding, bells, assonance, occur in the middle of words. What you write is not right. They uh, fight for their rights in the night, and I feel the need that the rain in Spain and stays on the plains. This is a good. This is a good book. So these are as these are assonance and volta, a change of thought in like so literary terms like drama, a type of literature written for the purpose a type of literature written for the purpose of being performed before an audience. The story of a drama is told, through actions and dialogues. Elements like the sequence of events in a story and the protagonist, the main character. These are elements, character, protagonist, action, dialogue, atmosphere, acts. Like division of a play and drama. We can say structure of drama: rising action, rising action, climax, falling. Introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and end. This is a structure, introduction and introduction, rising action, then climax, then falling action, then end. Next, we can say that types of drama, types of drama like tragedy. Tragedy is like unhappy ending for the protagonist. Tragedy is just like an unhappy ending for the protagonist. Comedy, happy ending for the protagonist. Elements of tragedy like tragic hero, protagonist, and tragic flow, personal error, hamartia, subtle weak point, false step, change of the protagonist and their fortune, and from good to bad, death of the protagonist. These are some tragedies, hamartia. Uh, then after catharsis, purpose of a tragedy to purify the feelings and like of the audience and the effect of tragedy on viewers, device of drama, Solviki character, a character express his thoughts before audience while talking to himself. In the Solviki, a character express his thoughts before audience while talking to himself. This is soliloquy. Soliloquy, like in soliloquy, a character expresses his thought before audience while talking to himself. While talking to him, while talking to himself. Perpetua turning point. Perpetua is like perpetua means perpetua is just like a perpetua is just like a turning point. Perpetua is just like a turning point. Monologue, a long speech by character for other character on the stage. A long speech by a character. A long speech by a character for other character on the stage. That is called monologue. Poetry justice, in poetry justice, virtue is rewarded and is punished. Conflict struggle between two opposing opposing forces, that is called conflict. Comic relief, the interruption of tragedy by a comic episode is called a comic relief. Comic relief is just like a interruption. Comic the interruption of tragedy by a comic episode. The dramatic irony means in dramatic irony the audience have more knowledge of facts than a character and of or characters, and climax the point of highest interest, highest interest, and then after the final action that complete the plot in a tragedy, the end of the tragedy, that called it catastrophe. Catastrophe. And denouement, end of a comedy. Denouement is just denouement. Denouement just about end of a comedy. Denouement, end of a comedy, and catastrophe, the final action that completes the plot in a tragedy. The end of a tragedy is the end of a tragedy is called the end of a tragedy is called the catastrophe, and the end of tragedy is called catastrophe. The end of comedy is called denouement. The end of comedy is called denouement. Then after we have then after we have comedy. Comedy is a play or drama. Uh, Comedy is a play or drama and ends with a happy ending. High comedy evokes intellectual laughter through wits and humor. It appeals to the intellect like satire. Low comedy evokes laughter through jokes and physical actions. It makes the audience laugh quickly. And romantic comedy, a light-hearted comedy involving young lovers and like it, and comedy of manners, a play that and satire manners and affections of a particular social class, and the importance of being the way of the uh, low type of comedy is called farce. Low type of comedy, comedy of meanings, fear, danger, and the source of comedy. And farce, just like a low type of farce, is just like a low type of comedy. The birthday party, Harold Winter, irony is statement which real meaning is exactly the opposite of the meaning conveyed by words. And tragic comedy means a play that combines the elements of both tragedy and comedy. Tragic comedy ends with tragic comedy ends with a denouement, and in it the rising action is tragedy, and the falling action is comedy. Rising action is tragedy, and the falling action is comedy. Merchant of Venice example. Melodrama, a play which is neither tragedy nor comedy. It's a play with a sensational plot that appeals to the emotion, that is called a melodrama. Prose is anything which is not written in the form of poetry. Prose is anything not written in the form of poetry, fiction, short story, novels, non-fiction, essays, biography, and essays, biography, autobiography, fiction, short story novels. A piece of short story, a piece of prose fiction that can be read in one sitting, no longer than 20,000 words, no shorter than 1,000 words. And characteristics of you know characteristics of short story. Limited characters, its plot, like less complete, complex than novels. It focuses on a single event, element, setting, plot, sequence of events in the story, characters, conflict, and the theme, and a poetry device, and rhyme is the repetition of the same. Arrangement of vowels and consonant at the end of the lines of poetry. A poetry device like go, no, so, shown, rhyming words. Rhyming is the repetition of the same arrangement of vowels and consonant at the end of the lines of poetry. Subject verb agreement. A singular subject is singular verb, a plural subject is a plural verb, and these are some agreements. The most important value in English. So English is not a subject but a language, and English is not a subject but a language. A language is not taught; it is taught. And characteristics of language, evolutionary in language, and dynamic language is dynamic and not static. The complex whole, the system of systems, and morphology, the study of formation, the study of formation of words, the study of formation of words is called morphology. The study of formation of words, phonology, the sound system, semantic, the study of meanings of words, syntax, the arrangement of words in a the arrangement of words in a sentence is called a syntax. A social phenomena, a symbolic system, social phenomena, thematic, and then after skills of language, listening, speaking, reading, writing. These are four skills we can say. And listening and reading both are passive skills and receptive skills. Speaking and writing both are active, productive skills. Listening and reading are passive skills because we do not need to produce language to do them. Speaking and writing are active skills because we need to produce language to do them. A passive skills must be learned before an act. A passive skills must be learned before an active skill. Natural sequence of learning the skills of language, listening, speaking, reading, writing. First language and your second language. Target language, the language which is to be taught in the classroom. The mental development of a child takes place in his mother tongue. The mental development of a child takes place in his mother tongue. And English is an international language. It is the language of the world. English is non-lingua franca of the world, and lingua franca just like a common language of communication. English is the language of science, and English is one of the language of India. And approach that tells what to teach. An approach that tells us what to teach. Method tells us how to teach. A method is an implementation of approach, and approach is very what to teach. And communicative approach means CLT, communicative language teaching. So CLT is a broad approach to the CLT is a broad approach to the teaching of language. In CLT, interaction is both means and the goal of learning. Target language and language learning is a learning to communicate. In CLT, students learn to communicate through interaction in the target language. In CLT, there is an attempt to link classroom language learning with language activities outside the classroom. And then after CLT makes use of real life situation to teach the target language. Communicative activities are an essential part of CLT, and like role playing, interviewing, and role playing, interviewing, language games. Meaningful communication should be the goal of classroom. And in CLT, the teacher plays the role of facilitator. CLT is a pupil-oriented approach. In CLT, the teacher main task is to determine the language needs of the determine the language needs of the learning. Communicative competency is the desired goal in CLT, the ability to communicate. The main aim of CLT is to provide communicative competency to the learner, coined by Dal Hymes. Communicative competency has four aspects: linguistic competency, knowledge of grammar and vocal of language, discourse ability to converts, and social linguistic competency in the ability to use a language approach in a given social situation. Strategic competency means the repair of breakdown, and equal emphasis on all four language skills. In CLT, the focus is on meaningful communication and not on the structure. Meaning is paramount over here. CLT is a task based approach. In CLT, the learner learns to use the language instead of studying the language. And translation may be used if learners benefit from it. Translation may be used by learners. Judicious use of mother tongue may be allowed. The main objective of teaching English is to enable the learners to use it. Is to enable the learners to use it. Language learning is not easy unless it is connected to real life. Language must be practiced in real life situations. In CLT, contextualization is the basic premise. Try and error is considered as an essential part of learning. Essential part of learning. Essential part of learning. And in CLT, background, background to CLT. Language learning has seen many changes in the last 50 years. We can group the trends of language teaching in the last 50 years into three phases: traditional approaches, methods, and phase three, kind communicative approach, and audio lingualism, directive language, deductive are used example, inductive example to use word drilling and pronunciation, accurate mastery, and traditional approach like audio linguistics begin to fall out of fashion. It was argued that language ability did not grammatical competency, only linguistic com- competency, communicative competency is needed to use language communicatively. So, communicative competency is a broader concept that linguistic competency. Linguistic competency is only a part of communicative competency. It was assumed that the knowledge of grammar could be picked up. It was assumed that the knowledge of grammar could be picked up formally by learners. The notion of communicative competency was developed, and was born. TLT created a great deal of enthusiasm when it first appeared in 1970s. The teachers and the institutions all around the world began to rethink their teaching methodology and current CLT since the 1990s. CLT has been widely implemented. There is no single set of practice and principles that characterize CLT. There is no universally accepted model of CLT. CLT is a set of generally agreed upon principles that can be implemented in different ways. Then after assumption of current CLT, language learning is facilitated. Learners are engaged in interaction and meaningful communication. Language learning is facilitated by communicative activities. Language learning is a gradual process. It involves creative use of language, trial and error. Learners develop their own route to language learning and they progress at different rates. The teacher is the facilitator and the classroom is a community where the learner learn through collaboration and sharing. Classroom activities in CLT. One of the goals of CLT is to develop fluency in language use. Fluency is developed by creating various classroom activities, role playing, and oral activity done in pairs. The teacher sets the scene where the conversation will take place. Interview and oral activity done in pairs and language games, scrambling and unscrambling of sand, jumbled and sand rearrangement, group work, a collaborative activity. Group of no more than six students is formed. Each student is assigned a role play in the group. Each group is given the same task, information gap, a collaboration activity. Learners try to obtain information unknown to them and like that Hines, they laid the conceptual basis of CLT in 1970s. 1970s and the principles of language teaching. Principles of naturalizing language learning should happen listening, speaking, reading, writing. Language the teaching should start orally and correct pronunciation. Language teaching should start orally, correct pronunciation should be taught, grammar should be taught inductively. Grammar should be taught inductively. Mother tongue is acquired naturally through natural process. The same process should be followed in teaching a second language. Principle of imitation. Imitation is an important principle of language. Learning a good speech is the result of good imitation. Imitation plus practice mastery of language. The learners imitate the teacher. Therefore, the teacher must be correct in this use of grammar, spelling, and pronunciation. Principle of repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning. Repetition is one of the basic techniques of language learning. Habits are formed through repetition. Things often repeated are best remembered. It is the duty of a teacher to apply the concept of repetition in the process of learning. Principle of learning by doing. Principle of activity. In a traditional classroom, learners are passive recipients of information. Now, the concept of teaching has changed from teacher centric to learner centric. The teacher must try to make learners involved in various types of activity. Principle of linking with life language should be taught in real life situations. Principle of motivation and uh, interact. Learners don't have an innate interest in in the learning of language. The teacher must try to create interest among them. It's a teacher's duty to create an environment in which the learners feel motivated. So, principal formation. Habit formation is a process by which behavior through regular repetition becomes automatic. Language learning is a you know, of habit formation. The learner must ensure that the learners form good language habits. Mistakes should be avoided as they become bad habits. And principle of sentence selection and gradation. Language items should be selected before being taught. Gradation of long items, materials means placing them in order. Selection of language items is done in respect of vocabulary, grammatical items, structures. Selection of language items should be done on the basis of usefulness, simplicity, productivity, reachability. Principle of grouping language items should be grouped to phonetic groups. It is done on the basis of similarity in pronunciation. Can, man, pan, book, hook, and sit, eight, plate. So semantic grouping like language items are grouped on the basis of similarity in meaning, synonyms, antonyms, vocabulary items belonging to the some class. Evaluation in evaluation, of life, evaluation takes place in one form or the other. It is only through evaluation that one can discrimination between good and bad. Evaluation is the process of gathering evidence on the change in behavior of students as they progress through school. Learning is the modification of behavior to experience and training. Learning is an ongoing process. It is the process of learning which continues till that. Evaluation is the constant process. It goes on along with the teaching and learning process. Evaluation is done to know the effectiveness of teaching methods and the techniques. Evaluation gives the feedback to the teacher about the teaching and the learner about the learning. Then after functions and purpose of evaluation, evaluation plays a very important role in the teaching uh, learning process. It is an integrated uh, part of the institutional program. It provides information on the basis of which many educational decisions are taken. Diagnosis, identification of difficulty or weakness of students during instruction. One of the aims of evaluation is to identify weak points in the school program and weakness of the learner. Evaluation helps to test the effectiveness of teaching methods, and it also helps teachers to prepare effective remedial course program. Prediction, evaluation has to discover potential ability and aptitude among the students. Selection evaluation has in selecting students for higher studies and for promotions and promotion to the next class. Guidance evaluation helps learners in making decisions about courses and career. It helps the learner to know their place of learning and the lapses in their learning. It helps the teachers to know the children and to provide them necessary educational guidance. And grading evaluation helps in assigning grades to the learners. Types of evaluation: formative assessment and summative assessment. Formative, it is used to monitor the learning progress of students during the period of instruction. It provides the continuous feedback to both the teacher and the learner while instruction is in progress. At the end of the topic, the teacher can evaluate the learner to get the learning outcomes on the basis of which he can modify his methods, techniques to provide a better learning experience. Formative evaluation is diagnostic in nature. Summative, it is done at the end of a teaching program. It is done to know to what extent the objectives previously fixed have been accomplished, where the cook tastes the soup, that is formative, and when guests taste the soup, that is summative. That is summative. So summative evaluation is done to know the pupil's achievement at the end of a course. Its main objective is to assign grades to the pupils. It is terminal in nature, and as it comes at the end of a course, it cannot be based on the teacher's observation only. Formative evaluation, it is the evaluation during the learning process. The aim is to monitor the learning progress, you know, the period of instruction. The purpose is to improve students' learning. It provides continuous feedback. It is diagnostic nature and summative evaluation after the course completion. The aim is to assign grades, and the purpose is to evaluate the students' achievement. It provides feedback of the end of the course and terminal in nature. It is diagnostic nature. It's a terminal in nature. That is terminal in summative, terminal in nature. In the formative, it is diagnostic nature. Tools and techniques of evaluation, qualitative techniques, and quantitative techniques. Both qualitative and quantitative techniques have their own uses. Qualitative techniques are more subjective and techniques, and qualitative techniques depend mainly on individuals' observation to individual evaluating the same thing. They end up with different conclusions, and the quantitative techniques of evaluation are more reliable than techniques because they help to remove human bias and in evaluation because techniques are subjective. Quantitative techniques is accurate and cumulative record, rating scale, interview, and questionnaire. And functions and purpose of evaluation. Evaluation, plays a very important role in the teaching learning process. It is an integrated part of the institutional program. It provides program information on the basis of which mainly educational decisions are taken. Diagnosis, identification of difficult or weakness of students, and during the instruction, one of the aims of evaluation is to identify weak points in the program and weakness of the learner. Evaluation has to test the effectiveness of teaching method. It also helps teachers to prepare effective remedial course program. Prediction evaluation has to discover and potential abilities and aptitude among the students. Selection evaluation helps in selecting students and for higher studies and for promotions to the next class. In guidance, evaluation has the teacher learners in making decisions and what about the courses and career. It helps the learners to know their place of learning and place in their learning. So it helps the teachers to know the children and to provide them necessary educational guidance. Grading evaluation has in assigning grades to the learners, types of evaluation, formative and summative. It is a use to monitor the learning progress of the students during the period of instruction. It provides continuous feedback to both the teacher and the learner while instruction is in progress. At the end of the topic, the teacher can evaluate the learners to get the learning outcomes on the basis of which he can modify his learning experience. Formative evaluation is diagnostic in nature. So these are objective tests, recall type items, recognition type items, subjective short answers, long answers, types. So recognition type questions are intended to test the students' ability to recognize, and multiple choice questions and like item as the following: the true false call type question test the memory of the students, and very short answer type questions, good and bad, simple and objective type tests are standardized, subjective tests are non-standardized. So characteristics of objective tests. Objective tests are definite and clear. Single answer is expressed. There is a perfect objectivity in scoring, and questions takes less time to answer. And objective test assist a specific part of the learner's knowledge. Objective tests are difficult and more time consuming to construct. They are more reliable and characteristics of subjective test. Subjective test assess the areas of students and knowledge that are complex and qualitative. Subjective tests are the question that have more than one correct answer or linguistic questions that can be answered in different ways. Less diverse than objective, it provides creativity freedom to students. Then after remedial teaching instruction provided to students who have temporarily, fallen and behind in studies. It is also offered to the students who need special assistance. Remedial teaching is for learners, weak or poor students, children with special needs. Reasons for learning, lack of understanding, misconception, ineffective teaching methods, fear of the subject, wrong study habits, teachers' attitudes, medium of instruction, physical and emotions, factors for health. Remedial teaching is sometimes called corrective teaching. Steps of remedial teaching identifying the slow learners through evaluation and diagnostic test and preparation of remedial course, remedial teaching. And diagnosis is the process of investing learning difficulties and the reasons for this. The aim of a diagnostic test is to analyze, not to assess. Evaluate. The aim of a diagnostic test is to inquire into the difficulties faced by the learners. Diagnostic like to identifying the students who need help, locating the errors, difficulties, discovering the cause and deficiency like poor memory, knowledge, medium of instruction, poor concentration, poor and like absenteeism, language problem. Characteristics of a good diagnostic test. A diagnostic test takes up where informative test takes leaves off. It focuses on the pupil's educational weakness or learning difficulties. It also focuses on to the learning goals, learning gaps. Diagnostic tests are more intensive that act as a tool for analyzing learning difficulties of pupils. A diagnostic test pinpoints specific types of errors made by each pupil. It also searches for the underlying causes of the errors. Diagnostic tests are more comprehensive. Diagnostic tests are corrective in nature, analytical as well. Diagnostic tests are for low average students. Remedial, like corrective teaching. Remedial teaching focuses on skills rather than content. The remedial teaching material, corrective teaching, should be designed to the students to remove their weakness or language difficulty. Remedial teaching material should be graded. It should allow the learners to progress at their own pace. Remedial teaching is teaching again the language items already taught, but in different ways. Grammar teaching is teaching again the language items already taught, but in a different way.